And I came here in 1986 to run it for myself, and I signed the papers, and I was owner of the Red Barn Incorporated. People come in here for the experience, more so than I think anything else. And they love the fact that somebody's actually taking the time to listen. Maybe you learn in proportion to how much you listen and care. If you can find that balance between doing what you love that isn't really work, that might pay the bills, and can resonate with people, and actually to some extent help people. Without my customers, I would be doing what I don't love, guaranteed.
Today's Kennebec Valley Forum is brought to you by Dan and Scott's Cremation and Funeral Service, Sunset Flowerland and Greenhouses, and KSW Federal Credit Union.
We can continue on. This is the Kennebec Valley Forum. I'm Tom Mason. It's my job today to put this thing together and make it all work. And I wanted to introduce a Purple Heart resident, I can't read my own writing. Combat veteran with the Purple Heart that's helping all of us. His name is Air Force retired Major John Doc Nelson. Air Force. Army. I thought you said Air Force. That's what your card says. No, it doesn't. I said no. No, it's all right. Anyway, he was a serviceman anyway. Army, I'm sorry. I wouldn't insult you by calling you Air Force. and now we're going on. So if you would like to introduce everybody along the way here, we'll get it started.
Well, thank you, Tom, very much for that
Mess up.
noble introduction.
It was my extreme pleasure to meet this guy and to introduce him.
Well, today I'd really like to say thank you to the veterans that are with me today, because they have come down not to ostracize or to criticize or to crucify anyone, but to come out and to say that there are problems in the veterans system. There are problems in benefits. The medical system is really not that bad in the VA, but getting into the system is tough. And these are the veterans that's been fighting that battle. One sitting at the table has been almost 60 years fighting that battle. And I'm very blessed for them to come in, and thank God that I was able to at least talk to them, and I've heard wonderful stories. The first person is Michael Quill. He's a U.S. Navy veteran. Next to him is his mother, Gwendolyn Quill. She is a U.S. Navy veteran. Next to her is her husband, Joseph Quill, who is also a U.S. Navy veteran, as well as the rest of his family went into the Navy. Couldn't talk him out of it. Ed Carr, he's one of the newer ones that's come to me. He was U.S. Navy. I have Dennis Moran. He is a U.S. Army veteran. I have Tom Mason. He served in the Girl Scouts. No, he served in the United States Army.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll get him back.
I have here Kirk Thurlow. He is one that helps me in the office when we start taking a look and doing research and putting these files together. And, Kirk Thurlow is an invaluable resource for me and a great help, and I really appreciate all that he does and for all of the veterans that he assists with. The next one is Howard Black. He is U.S. Navy, as you can see on his hat. Next to him is Phil Farrington. Phil Farrington is a U.S. Army veteran, and he's had quite a story. He's been with me for quite a while. And next to him is my stepchild, a Chinese stepchild. You can't put that on there. But anyway, it's Mr. Tom Mason.
No, that's the other one.
Thomas Kern. Thomas Kern is a U.S. Marine Corps disabled veteran who has really been run through the ropes when everything was right before him. And because of these gentlemen, it makes it all worthwhile. And my name is John They call me Doc Nelson because I was in the military for 30 years, and 20 years of that I was a medical officer of VA, taking care of the boys in the front lines, and 29 months of combat. And I love these guys. So let's hear some of their stories.
You're on.
Okay, my name's Tom Curran. I never needed the VA at first because I was a Kingster and I had all the coverage I needed. Plus I was 21 years old, pretty healthy. But then after I turned 65, I started needing some help. I went to the VA. The first time they told me I made too much money. The second time someone told me, oh yeah, they changed that. I went again, same thing, too much money. The third time I went, which wasn't too long ago, because I heard about the Marine veterans, the Camp Lejeune cancer thing. I was told I could probably get my foot in the door with that. I went to see Doc Nelson because they handed me a whole bunch of forms. They're great at that. Handing you forms and telling you what you have to do, not what they can do. So anyway, I've had 2 forms of cancer, and now they give me these forms to fill out. We fill them out, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, send them in. And also I get a letter back that there wasn't enough information. I didn't provide enough information, although I fill out the whole form. Come to find out it's the wrong form. And you know, I just learned how to turn a computer on a couple of years ago. And I have a problem finding these things. And Doc here helped me a lot. Anyway, I got 2 DD-214s. One from St. Louis that took almost 2 months to get it back, but it was a good one. But the one that this woman said I was not ever in Camp Lejeune. Evidently, I was AWOL for 6-7 months because I was in Lejeune. And but the 2 different DD-214s, one had all the information, every duty station I was in, and and the other one omitted the fact that I was spent 6-7 months in June during that period of time when they had a problem with the water causing cancer, and I've had lung cancer and bladder cancer, several operations. Anyway, thank you, Doc.
What happened was Mr. Curran had come in to the Gary Gordon, Master Sergeant Gary Gordon Veteran Center, which I was the founder, and he had been given some forms, and a lot of the forms VA had were very complicated, and a lot of people couldn't understand they were filled out wrong, so the claim would be denied. Mr. Curran had 2 separate documents, and they did state different. So VA wouldn't just accept that. We actually got the personnel records that showed where he was stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time frame. Therefore, we were able to submit the claim. But Mr. Curran come in because he needed help with medication. His medications had gotten up to $300-400. And once I got to talking to him, we found out that he deserved a lot more, and we were able to work on it from that standpoint.
One prescription, $387 a month.
So now we've got him working in the system, and his claim is filed, and we're waiting to hear the decision.
Yeah, Phil Farragut. I won't go into a lot of repetitious material here because we all share basically the same problem. Lack of communications, lack of knowledge of VA policies, lack of somebody to talk to, until just recently with John. I was discharged from the service in 1959. 40 years after I was discharged, I found out I did qualify for VA healthcare. It only took 40 years to find that out. They have helped me some. We're still working on this copay plan, which is a court ruling. Hopefully Congress will do something with this court ruling since it was passed in April of 2016, which will cover our copays in conjunction with Medicare. And this is one of the big things now. Records are another thing. I don't have any records. They lost them all. I've got a DD 214, that's it. John's still helping me, we're still working on it.
Would you recommend anybody to go see him?
Most of it. Yes, I would. John has been a big help to me because I now understand a law that before was just befuddling.
And it's not so much, they had the fire of 1973 in St. Louis, and a lot of records were burned up, from 1812 all the way up to 1959, and then up to 62 for the U.S. Air Force, up through the H's, I think. But there are ways to try to prove what needs to be done. VA turns the veterans down because they don't have a record. Even though the decision that came down on the copay, and a lot of veterans do go in for a copay, and they do call, or they go see the doctor, they call the nurse, and they say, well, you need to go to the emergency room. If a VA personnel or VA doctor tells someone to go to the emergency room, then VA should cover that charge. Or if VA tells them you need to go for surgery, you're going to have to go down to the VA hospital, then they should pay that charge instead of billing the patient $48,000 or $12,000 or $14,000. This case between Richard Stabb and Robert A. McDonald of the Veterans Affairs was decided on behalf of the veterans because emergency care should be covered. But I've actually had some veterans who went into the choice program, and I'm sure that's going to come up a little bit later, who have ended up, couldn't get in. They were told, use your Medicare and we'll take care of it. And it's not been taken care of. They put the onus back on the veteran, and therefore they cost them money. So this is the important thing, and there are ways to get records if you're willing to take the time and do it. The thing I try to give these veterans is as much time as they need. I had one man come in, he was injured in the military, VA had gave him a pension, nobody had processed him. I went back and found the paperwork from his initial injury back in 1981. He was in the hospital, but hospital records are not kept with the military records when they're retired, so VA did not have all the records for him. He ended up winning his case for $209,000 and is now living in a home instead of being homeless. You've got to look for the records. It's quality, not quantity.
My name's Howard Black. I was released from the Navy in 1969. I filed a few claims for hearing, but they've all been denied, so I went to see John about those. I want to address the choice system, which was set up to help veterans who lived in rural areas without having to travel hours and hours to get to Togus. The choice system has just added another step in the process of trying to get care. I started in January with my primary VA doctor, and it's July, and I still haven't finished that process yet. The choice system, because I'm hard of hearing, I have to get somebody to use the telephone for me, and I have to deal with the VA, the people at choice, who could be anywhere in the United States, I hope, and an outside doctor to set up the appointment, find out if there's a copay, how many times I'm going to see that outside doctor, because if he wants to see me 3 or 4 times, I'm going to get charged a copay for every time I go. I've already went to one outside doctor and refused to pay them and told the VA not to pay them because of the care I received and the amount of tests they wanted done. So that's where I am with that.
And the choice system was made to make things faster. If VA could not see you in a timely manner, then you could go to the choice and ask to be seen. Was you the one that had put in to see the neurologist?
No.
Okay.
Podiatrist.
Okay. I had a veteran who had put in to see a neurologist, and VA said they could not see him for a couple of months. So he said, well, I'll go to the choice program because we seriously suspect probably he's developing Parkinson's disease. And it could be related to the sensory deprivation studies they went through back in the 1970s, of which VA would not recognize. But when he called the choice program, they booked him an appointment for January 2018. How is that helping someone? That's one of the points where people get so frustrated and aggravated trying to work through this system that they give up. And that's just so wrong for everybody. And I don't want them to give up. I want them to be successful. So we're working on that. But the choice program has some serious flaws, especially when you call, well, we don't know anything about VA. So it really makes it tough, okay?
There's the fellow right there that you need to talk to. Come right over here. This is Mo Carey. He was in an airplane that had the Agent Orange and Blue and it dumped all over him.
How are you doing?
This is John Nelson right here.
Dr. Nelson. Good to meet you, buddy. Heard a lot about your job. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Why don't you stay there for a minute, Mo, and why don't you tell your story? Tell your story to that camera right there.
Good morning. My name is Morris Carey, Waterville, Maine, 79 years old. I served in the Navy from 55 to 57, United States Air Force from 57 to 1960. In 61, I submitted my claim of complete saturation of Agent Orange. In-flight accident. I'm still waiting for that claim to be processed. 57 years later. Last August 2016, I finally received $133 monthly. That doesn't even buy groceries. I did receive a 10% disability. Nothing else has been said. I spent a year with a senator, Mr. Michaud, for nothing. I'm over a year and a half right now for a word from Congresswoman Shelley Pengreen. Politics involved and the government works in a slow manner. I lost both my children due to my genes and impregnating my wife. Passed the Agent Orange on to them. They both died 47 days apart. My daughter was 51, my son was 49. They were born with pulmonary fibrosis. The lungs ceased to function after dying. They were on oxygen, CPAPs for years. I presently am on the same thing. I don't know where it's all going to end, but I was on a secret mission escorting President Eisenhower to his meeting with representatives in Japan. Thank you. He aborted the mission because of uprising with the Chinese nationalists. And we were 1 hour out of San Francisco when this in-flight accident happened. Encountered severe turbulence. We went up to 46,000 feet to avoid this. When it was safe to descend, so we thought, we started down, and in this process, all the barrels at Agent Orange, C-130 was full of them. They expanded and contracted, the bungs leaked, every barrel had an inch or so in the lip of pure Agent Orange. The OD, the black containers, as well as the blue ones. As we descended, there was 21 and 22 of us on jump seats. We fell for 1,000 feet. And when we bottomed out, this was like a tidal wave. It all went over on us. I was the second man next to the barrels, and I sat there for 6 hours, completely saturated head to toe. My body was like a sponge. Because the mission was aborted, I'm told, the CIA, who was our umbrella, didn't record that shipment. And this is, all these years it comes to that point, the acknowledgement of that shipment, of Agent Orange. I did submit my claim to the VA in Tokes in 1961, was escorted by the Commandant with all my records in a blue Ziploc bag, building 200 to the 6th floor. There was a vault, there was an overgrown closet, lined with shelves that were completely filled with blue bags. Where do I put mine? Oh, you just push them a little bit, we'll get to them. Nobody knows, or has ever heard, except one person, where the vault is, where it was, what happened to all the records. It's still a big mystery. And I'm probably the only one around. I tried to contact these other fellows. I found 2 people that knew about it, but didn't go on that mission. One has written a letter for me, to what knowledge he had about it. The other one's got Alzheimer's, God love him. So here I sit, and because I heard about this gentleman, I trying to make an inroad here. You know, I got all the bad stuff, you know. There's more to it, but I won't take up your time.
Well, Mo, I tell you, I really appreciate it. Well, I have tried my best to find the manifest for the shipment, because there was Agent Orange, Agent Blue, and Agent Purple.
Yeah.
I've tried to find those manifests, but conveniently, the Army sometimes after 1977, 78 issued a edict that the records of all shipments, cargo manifest, would be destroyed 3 years from the date of their time, okay? It's very convenient. Now, VA has a statement in their Title 38 of USC, and it says that they have the responsibility to assist you in preparation of the claim. Unfortunately, I have not seen them bend over backwards to get some documentation or attempt to get documentation to help a veteran out. I have one veteran who said he was in Vietnam. He was also underneath the CIA umbrella. Helicopter would bring him in, different helicopter would take him out, never two. Yet he cannot get benefits because I cannot get records, and I've got no one to help me get those records from the CIA. So and all benefits should go to the veteran, but that does not happen. They give the benefit of the doubt only if it's overwhelming evidence. They keep wanting more and more evidence when actually there is no evidence. At what point do we have to take someone's word and actually do what's right for the veteran? I'm having a very hard time with this because the Agent Orange. I have a lot of veterans that was Camp Buckner, I think it was, in Japan, Okinawa. And they buried, I think it was 2,000 pounds of Agent Orange and maybe Agent Blue and Purple, and it's under an area called Antenna Field, okay? But nobody will recognize that in the VA, and I can't find the documents for the DOD. But I think it actually happened, and I think they actually did get sprayed with it. People who had Agent Orange on them had a burning sensation, and it actually was doing damage to the skin, okay? We're also looking at Hiroshima because that was one of the staging grounds, or not Hiroshima, I'm sorry, Okinawa was one of the staging grounds for the distribution into Hue and to Da Nang, which was distribution points for Agent Orange, using the C-123 aircraft. Still, there is nothing they won't acknowledge. And it goes back to the same in Gagetown in Canada. They did have spray. One of the people I've got that I have been talking with actually went up there after one of the spray-ins they put their sleeping bag out onto the grass that was all brown and smelled. Agent Orange will smell. Once it's on the vegetation, it is a rotting smell. You will never forget it if you smell it. But he was there, yet DOD, VA will not acknowledge that, even though we do have where DOD did actually spray that in their own timeline of distribution of Agent Orange. The Canadian government did recognize it and compensated their troops for it, but the American system, the VA, refused to do that. Question, why? I don't understand. There's a different criteria used for every situation. So these are questions that I'm working with other people trying to see if we can't find a solution. And I'm very sorry about your case because I firmly believe that did happen. And I'll do my best to work on it.
You can see it coming out of me to this day, and to this day, women are jealous of me because hair will not grow on my legs.
Oh, my head.
I've always wanted to know that, Mo. Thank you so much for sharing.
It's a fact. You spoke about Okinawa. We stopped there. I did the whole Pacific route. I ended up in Formosa, Taiwan, Taipei, and on a midnight run, I went into Da Nang to deliver the last of that crap. We stopped in Okinawa, and we had a field brush fire truck that this product was going to go into so they could spray the perimeters of the base so that any intruders would be sighted. And we came back about a week later that we actually saw that unit in operation, and the result was, as you indicated, brown. It was brown, and there was very noticeable perimeter. Pretty powerful stuff.
Yep.
A lot of men have died. I was in Togus one day in the emergency room talking to another GI, and we were kibitzing and talking, and this nurse came by and she closed the curtain. She says, "Gentlemen, I overheard your conversation. My father is dying of cancer from Agent Orange, and they can't find his records. Nobody knows about this vault on the 6th floor. At least they're not admitting to it." And she immediately said, "Good luck." Turned and left, and we're there in awe, you know. About 6 months ago, a coworker indicated that a neighbor of his was dying of cancer, and he was through the VA in Togus. And there's a lot of construction going on now, a lot of rebuilding. And out behind Togus, there's a lot of old garages and old outlying buildings. Well, somehow, some of these records were retrieved, and the fellow in Sydney, records were in there. And he did get compensation, but I understand he passed away shortly after. There's a lot of mystery here that's, not coming forth. One fellow asked me, "Well, why don't you go see the commandant?" Well, my God, he was in his 50s then, and it's 57 years. Would he be alive at 107? I doubt it. But I did have, it was a blue bank bag, zipped padlock. I held it in my right hand, and he held my elbow, escorted me to the elevator, took me right up there. In that bag was one pink manifest that I was supposed to have destroyed. Well, I ended up in my pocket. That's the only proof I had. That was in that bag, along with the other information that the VA said, "You want to file a claim? This is what you have to present us," which I did. Over the years, I've met with a lot of different organizations from Florida to Maine, and they all have a different story. They all try, but it's always a dead end. I could write a book, I really could. And,
Well, I sure hope I can write that ending to that book.
you have the closest I came to reality. And I appreciate what you're trying to do for everybody. Hopefully something good will come out of it. You lose your children, there's a big sign there, I believe it's Montana. It's a big black sign, it's a billboard inside the road. black billboard with orange letters, Agent Orange kills children. I have a picture of that. Yeah.
For an agency like VA, it's supposed to be out here trying to help the veterans. What we see sitting around this table is a handful. I have approximately 63 veterans that I've been just trying to help. I'm not a veteran service officer, but I'm a medical officer, and I was very good at my job. And I try my best to help them because I can relate medical problems to conditions, and I know how to get records. So together I help the veteran put together a package that he can submit. But a lot of things that we want that VA should be helping with is not helping the service member. And I'm sorry to say, but I think it comes down to money. I think it comes down to money. And they want the veteran to get so aggravated and so frustrated that they say, I quit. Because I've had veterans come to me and says, I'll never go to VA again. I don't ever want to see a VA doctor. I've had 8 surgeries since I come back from the Gulf War. I've gotten pretty good care through the VA. Some of it was done on the outside. But it's something that we need to work on. And we need to come to an agreement on how we're going to take care of the vets. Promises were made, but never kept. And I hope we're going to be able to do better in the near future.
I did notice one thing, that most of the people that were in the Marines or the Army, there was no problem. They all received as many benefits as they could. And,
Not all of them, because I got a whole drawer full
you
of
do?
it. Yeah.
What I've noticed in the Waterville area, that they seem to be doing pretty well, so.
Yeah.
that'd be kind of
Conrad's helping them.
good.
You know what that is.
Well, we've had a lot of veteran service officers, and sitting around this table, like I said, we're not here to crucify any one person. But a lot of veteran service officers work on quantity and quality, and they're actually going through, and they talk to you, find one thing, they write it down, they send it, but all the records to support that are not available. So they don't wait to look at it and evaluate it, they go ahead and send it in. I got a check mark, I got one in this week. Well, if the stuff's not there to prove it, and it gets rejected, well, now you have to have new and substantial proof, and it becomes a dog chasing its tail. That's not VA assistance. That's not the veteran service officer. They've got to take time to listen to the veterans. One man sitting at this table, I've probably spent 200 hours trying to piece together his story. And the one thing I do when you come in is I'm not in a hurry. We'll have a drink of a bottle of water, or we'll have a cup of coffee. But I sit there and I'll let you tell it. It's 3 hours, 4 hours, 2.5, it doesn't matter. I learned a long time ago in medicine, if you listen long enough, the patient's going to tell you what's wrong.
I can't not say anything bad about the service of the VA. You know, the hospitalization, the medical aspect of it, I've always done well by them. I have listened to a lot of people complain and whatnot, but I felt fortunate in that regard. I have no disregard for the service. It was a wonderful experience. A young fellow, 20 years old, going in. There's one thing I noticed, that a lot of people try to assist you, and they will give you information, and each bit of information has been different than the last. So I try to pursue all I can, and I did finally get hold of St. Louis, Missouri, in the middle of the night, and this fellow, I explained that I needed records, and I understood there was a fire, and from
73.
R to Z was destroyed or smoked, but B to C, I was in the group that was still available. And I got those records. I also called Salt Lake City, Utah, and that fellow was very helpful. But in the queue of what department I wanted to talk to was a C-130 and C-135. I haven't called back. I've lost that number, but I was going to get into the C-130 aspect, because that was on an old B model. That was a four-bladed. A models shook the hell out of you. but I didn't pursue that, which I should have done.
Now, the 135 was used for distribution. They would spray and drop it.
Right.
But the 130s did all the transports.
We did all
of
the
drugs.
mule work, yeah, yeah.
And that's why you had Agent Orange, Agent Purple, Agent Blue.
That's right,
And they
yeah.
did a lot of research on it.
Yeah, we had that, what, a few barrels of each. The majority was the OD colored barrels. You know, Roundup that you spray on your weeds in your house, that's the same thing as Agent Orange, except for one chemical. There's one chemical lacking in Roundup.
Chlorotriethylene?
I'm not sure of the nomenclature, but you're ahead of me there. You've done your homework. Well, fellas, I'm on a kind of a short limited time. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and I feel that we're all in the same boat. We're all looking for something that we can't reach, can they?
Well, thank you for your input, we appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Pleasure meeting. I will get the other.
I want to talk to you. Okay.
I know Lincoln. I'll find you.
I told him how to get there anyway.
It's not
You can't
stinking,
by the smell anymore, it's gone.
That's right, that's
it's
right.
not stinking Lincoln, it's Louis Lincoln,
There
sorry.
you go.
I look for the duck.
I'll catch up with you later, Mo. Thanks for
Be
coming
nice,
back.
Please, thank you.
I saw him out here this morning and told him we were gonna be here, and if he had a break, he'd come.
Have a good day, guys.
See ya.
You too.
Wish everybody luck.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy.
Kurt.
Yeah, hi, my name's Kurt Frillo, retired Staff Sergeant Kurt Frillo. I spent 30 years in the military. I too am a 100% disabled veteran. My experience has been a little different. I don't have a lot that I can put a finger on and say, this is an area that needs improved, but I will say this. We've experienced most veterans coming to the center appear to be, have a lot of anxiety when it comes to making out a form, or which form to use. If there's one thing the veteran can do, the veterans could do better would be to help understand how to make out a form. Most veterans coming to our center don't understand which form they need to use to obtain a certain benefit. No one's ever put that information out. No one has ever come out and said, if you have a hearing problem and you work aboard a ship with a lot of noise on it, you can sit down and make out this. Granted, there are veteran service officers. Some of the veteran service officers, there's only one of them, and there's quite a few thousand of us. So it's understandable if not everything gets picked up on in that sense. But there is an increased amount of anxiety when it comes to making out forms. People don't understand it. The form is antiquated, and at least half the forms we're doing for the VA are multi-purpose. You only make out a certain type of form for a certain thing. And that right there would be one area I think if we could critique upon is let some of the veterans have input on veterans' forms so that we know what they need. And also, from a medical point of view, some of the forms ask them to write down descriptions of illnesses and stuff, and that's not exactly should be on there. That should be seen by a doctor, and then the doctor writes on the form what the veteran has in medical terms. Because a lot of times we're applying for a benefit that is not exactly clear. The veteran knows they have a health condition, doesn't know exactly the whole thing that goes with it. So you'll get denied. We find that when a veteran comes in, a lot of times their experience with their military service has prevented them from ever coming back to a government agency and say, can you help me with my problem I had when I served at a certain time, or war, or whatever it may be. So these are the issues that we help. We sit down and listen to a veteran, listen to the story, and then explain to them, we can fill out this certain form from the VA that will get us started in the process of getting you help. This takes a long time, and we understand when you're dealing with the records department, they're processing 4,000 or 5,000 requests per day. That's not the issue. It does take time to get that. But the issue is most of the forms are antiquated. A lot of it is not applicable for today, for what we need to be on the form for the veteran. And the veteran feels like the form is not easily understandable. And I agree with that as well. Some of what you want to put on the form, some of what they want is not a simple, easy answer. It should be done. These forms you should sit down with the person and make it up. Someone that has knowledge, medical knowledge, and also maybe a basic understanding of government affairs. All right, so that's what I bring to the vet center. At the Gary Doing Vet Center, that's part of what we do. When a veteran comes in, sometimes it's just listening to the story. Sometimes it's once you listen to their experience, then you realize, hey, did you know that you have already earned a benefit of this, this, and this? The veteran's like, no one's ever told me that. Well, that is where the VA needs to do their work. That's where they need to improve. Does the veteran know when he comes off active duty, he's already entitled. He has already earned certain benefits and certain special privileges within his state, whether it be a discount on his fishing license, whether it be a discount on his registration, or help with a copay or a prescription. Most veterans do not understand the benefits that they have already earned. They understood their military contract. They understood their military service, but when it gets done, and now that they've earned this benefit, no one's telling them how to go and get that benefit, or how to access it. Go over here, fill out a form, talk to this person, you can have the help. No one in the VA is doing that. If they are, we haven't had them now. And maybe that'd be an area the VA could improve on. Is getting the word out that veterans are already pre-qualified. You have already earned this benefit with your service, whether it be in country, out of country, it doesn't matter. You've already earned this benefit. No one's telling them that they already have entitlements. Thank you.
And Kurt and I fill out quite a few of the forms for the vets. We ask the questions. A lot of it starts with the DD-214, the discharge document. And it's difficult to read the DD-214 to dig the information out. Also, Kurt and I have found out that the VA will change forms, and it says this form is not to be used after such and such a date. Mr. Curran sent his form in. They said, no, we need more information. They sent him back a form, and it had not been used since 2013. It had been updated in 2016 and 2015, and they didn't even send him the right forms. I called them and asked them. So Kurt and I had been getting documents, and we get one here that says, where to send your written correspondence. It says to Newnan, Georgia. Well, if you call the number and says, well, is that still out there? That's what we were told. We haven't been there for years, but it still comes out from VA. So to make things a little easier for us, they came out with another one. And this agencies had not known about this form, so now I had two forms to work with. And I was complaining to one of the veteran service organizations. I said, why don't you all know which one of these is supposed to be doing? And honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, the Disabled American Veterans and the main veteran services are really not doing justice in serving the veterans. They're just not. They're not listening. They're very quickly running them through. And I have hard cases. I really do, and I don't mind doing them. But anyway, now we have a new form that just came out, 62617. So it took them 3 years to determine which forms to use. And then they sent the guy still sending the wrong form. Yeah, so about every week we have to go through and see if there's been updated form. We just don't have it. But there are things that we can do, and that's what we try to help the veteran to understand what the form asks, because they don't know what the form's asking. And a lot of the veterans coming out of service now, they are getting a good briefing, they are getting benefits. But for those who got out before 2006, They didn't get that briefing. They didn't get told, so they don't know. And a lot of the veterans I see, they just happen to see the Gary Gordon Veterans Center come in, and they said, I just wanted to see, and I'll sit down and start talking to them, and by golly, guess what? We can help this individual. And that's what we try our best to do. But it's a good feeling. And there is problems, but the medical care, he's right. I've not had a problem with it. Well, a little bit, but I work in medicine, so there's things you all wouldn't see. But I do think that getting into the system is the hardest thing to do. Okay? And thank God for Kurt, because it sure does help out a lot in the office.
This is going to be short. I got out of service about 50 years ago, and for the last 40 years I've been fighting with them. This is the only ray of sunshine I've had in 40 years. I was sprayed in Okinawa by the plane he was flying. So they said they didn't recognize it. Well, I stopped at the VFW office in Togus, and the guy that's retired now and gone showed me a website that I printed up and gave to Nelson, where I was sprayed with it. And the Okinawan government's been fighting with the U.S. government for a long time because there's been so many people dying because of Agent Orange in Okinawa. Also, one of my kids is dead because of my genes and the Agent Orange. And it's in New York.
Hold on just one sec. Mr. Mason here came to me one day, whining in the usual format. But they told him, no, you can't claim this, you can't claim that. Once again, we get down to a specific diagnosis. You cannot claim skin cancers unless there are certain types. But the regular skin cancers, such as squamous cell or basal cell carcinomas, are not claimable. But the scars that are left on the body are claimable, and no one had explained that to Mr. Mason. And that was just wrong, as many people as he talked to in organizations. If they knew what the rules said, why not use it to help the veteran? And that's one of the biggest things that bothered me. Besides Tom.
I'll get to it.
Is it my turn now?
Yes, your turn now.
Dennis Moran. Like everyone else saying here, my situation is probably unique in one way. I do have an active claim right at the moment with the VA. We are in the process of sending for more records, but one of the problems that I've had it's the lack of follow-up on those professional defects with doctors. And, I've had my foot operated on the VA, and several years later, I received a letter in mail wanting to know if I would meet with a specialist from Boston, podiatrist, for consultation, which I did. Didn't really know what it involved, but it had something to do with my foot. We met, and he said, I think what we should do is do some therapy. That was the end of the story. I never heard another word until recently. But also, just recently, I've been made aware of the fact that the gentleman who operated on my ankle was not authorized to do so, and apparently he has several lawsuits against him. And needless to say, he's no longer with the VA. It's those types of things, though, that. And here again, do I hold against the VA? No, I don't. But they do have a serious problem down there, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. Forthwith, there's so many of us that have been, pushed underneath the table and neglected. So the time is now for something to be done about it. Next.
And one thing about his story is I have another veteran who also had his ankle and foot operated on, and now he can't really use his ankle and foot. Don Carrington with WLBZ Channel 2 had talked to the director, I think it was Mr. Lilly, about this because this veteran, Doc Barrows, had had his surgery, and VA had terminated this doctor, but you only have 2 years to file a claim for the damages, at least they told him. He got that letter 2 years and 2 months after the date that he had his surgery. So he could not file. They had to be sitting on that letter if they'd gotten rid of him 2 years earlier, okay? It's this kind of action that makes veterans very, very wary of the VA. There are 2 veterans that are not with us this morning. They do have their stories. And one of them says, I have a claim pending. I'm afraid if I go down there, VA will not service that claim. Why do we have to have an organization that is supposed to help veterans be so intimidating to these people that they're so afraid that they're going to not get what's due them? VA should not be intimidation. And that bothers me an awful lot, because veterans serve, I served. I saw death, I've been injured, I've been hurt. I had some good times, but still, I earned my benefits. And I can only hope that these guys with that surgeon will actually get looked at, because Doc Barrows has actually gone to the senators and everything, and our politicians are talking a good game, but I don't see anything coming through. You can talk all you want to, but what counts is your actions. When I first opened up the Master Sergeant Gary Gordon Veterans Center, at that time Congressman Poliquin said he thought it was great that independents are going to help and assist and to work with this. But twice, on my part and a couple of other veterans, we've never had a response from him or his office. Or there's nothing we can do. That's a federal matter. I get excuses. I don't want excuses. I want to know what we can do. When I was in the service, I had anywhere between 12 and 28 medical personnel I was responsible for. And I told them, don't ever bring me a problem unless you have a suggestion to fix it. Because that's how we get things done. Why can't we do that with the government and the population? I don't understand. I hear the best stories in the world, but I go home with an aggravation level that's up here. But I'd rather me be aggravated than them.
Yes, I'm Ted Carr. I was in the first Persian Gulf War, F-18 Hornet Squadron. Anyone that knows anything about naval aviation, it's pretty intense, even more so in the fighter community. Basically, it's non-stop. You have a flight schedule you have to support. You can't miss flights. So the people that do all the manual work, in my case, shortly after I got out, after my enlistment was up, I realized that my shoulders and back were in pretty bad shape from doing a lot of maintenance. So VA was pretty good to me, and I got service connected at 50% almost 20 years ago. But the thing about injuries like that is they don't get better over time, and starting to notice some more things wearing out. And the last thing that kind of went was my knees. So I pulled up, I told him my story, and I told him my theories of how it happened, loading ordnance and those sort of things on planes, and we're working from our knees, and we're pulling with our shoulders, awkward positions, and it kind of makes sense now that it's a chain reaction of physical problems from something I did. You know, there's that saying, all gave some, and some gave all. You know, it really rings true, especially listening to some of these guys' stories, you know, I can still do a lot of things, but I'm also pretty compromised. So what Major Nelson's helping me do is go after the VA for increased rating. I was a professional forester in the civilian world for about 10 years, and because of this, I can't do that anymore. So when you start looking at your options and running out of options, this is, it looked like the best one to pursue, and he's just been an invaluable resource. As far as, like everyone else has said, it's a complicated process and it's a lengthy process to do everything right so that you're giving yourself every chance to your claims done right and hopefully gets approved. And we're right at the end, we're almost done with mine, and then it's kind of holding your breath and waiting and seeing how it's all gonna work out. But that's about it, that's my story.
I only have a couple of things to say, and that's, the other day I was in the doctor's office, and we're to blame when I'm going bankrupt. He told me that,
At the VA?
Yes.
VA doctor said,
Dr. Millian.
okay, you're the one, I said, what? Ain't part of hearing, the guy that didn't hear it first. He said, you people come in here and you're not, how do you say?
You don't want to go to Togus.
You don't want to go to Togus, you want my choice. And
Yeah.
the Veterans Administration is going broke because of people like you.
Because we don't want to travel.
And he was rude and contentious, and we didn't get to that
I
point.
said, well, I'm trying to do what I can. You know, well, here's a guy that's on his way out, he told me, and he said, not only that, I'm fed up with this, I got only 2 weeks to go with this. I quit.
He's in the hospital now.
And he threw the records across the table.
I don't go there.
And he threw the records across the table to you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was rude.
I couldn't believe it, what is the VA for us?
What happened to professionalism?
When I was in, it was all military, took care of the military. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I took care of, washed their wounds and everything else, terrible stuff. And that was part, now they got, you don't put me on that job, I got a union to take care of. They'll get me off of this job. I said,
I don't know.
go ahead.
In 2005, they put in place in the defibrillator.
Speak up a little bit.
They had put in 2005, a pacemaker defibrillator. And we never had a problem until the first of this year, and there was something wrong. So I called Medtronics, and the lady said, get him to the nearest emergency room immediately, which I did. They shipped him to EMC, that's fine, they took care of the problem. And then I got a letter from the VA saying that we are not going to pay any of these bills. And I said, when you put it in, you need to repair it.
This was at West Roxbury
Yes.
VA
And I'm
hospital.
gonna send him out with here. But I took that problem to the done, and, last week I had a letter from the VA saying that all these have been taken.
Good.
And the other thing was, 60 years ago, they removed his inner ear, a complete masculinectomy. And it's been progressively worse over the last, well, we've been married 59 years, so it's 60 years for him. I had met him first. And he was now profoundly deaf. And poor guy, oh yeah, we got really amazed, but we wanted more than that. So we went to Dr. John and he took on the case, and that's looking positive.
Well, he couldn't get records for years.
He couldn't get any records about the pills that he was given, which were taken off the market almost immediately because they were
Poison.
poisoned.
Yeah, I was able to get his records within about 3 months and started seeing what it was. And
They were more, but I don't know what they
put a
were.
couple of hundred hours into it, piecing it together, and I was able to find the hospital forms that VA had ignored. When he got out, they said, okay, you've got ringing in the ears, we're gonna give you 10%. He doesn't even have hearing in his ear. How does he have ringing in his ears? Yeah.
We've been all the way up to 30% for the last, 50-something years.
He's got 100% gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't have an ear.
So his case is in and it's being decided on now, so she's in the process.
but to hear that the VA is going broke because of us.
Well, you should feel ashamed.
Shakespeare. I thought I said, well, you got some of your salaries. The way I heard it,
$200,000 a year.
the doctors at $200,000 coming in the door.
6 weeks vacation.
With the rate of the deceased veterans from World War II and Vietnam, the total number of patients being seen in the VA is actually going down, what they're responsible for. The number of people we've had in the service since that time has been far less than what it was before. We never had as big a manned force. So now, I don't understand why the deficit is. Where's all the money? Mike?
My name's Mike Quill. I was in the Navy. I got to see Joe one day. I saw the center opened up, and I just stopped by, and he sat down with me and started listening to my story. Ergonomics wasn't around when I was on board ship. I was gun captain, gun repair. I trained everybody in weapons on board ship. Is that a show?
No, go ahead.
So when it came to moving things like fences, ordnance and whatnot, they had no setup for it. I mean, in a forward trunk that's 5 foot square with a vertical ladder, you had to climb down 5 decks, and then you got 6 inches of steel that sticks out from the trunk. You put your feet on and open up a hatch, and you got guys that hand you 20 millimeter rounds out of a 70-pound case. And I grab one end of it, one hand on the ladder, and I go up the ladder carrying it, all the way up, all the way down. No chain noise, no nothing. I started with pull chain myself, but I got too heavy. It was easier for me to just hold on to one arm and go up carrying it. Sore back, muscles ache, shoulders I've had both operated on, my spine is shot. I took a header on the general quarters. My boondoggers hit the 3rd step before I went down. And I've got what's called Osgood-Schlatters disease. Okay? My left knee was the same as this one. When I hit the deck, it flattened it, swished it out. I got nothing under my kneecap, and these things are working their way up under. And it's one of those things that's, at 19, you suck it up. You put an ace bandage around it.
These things don't get better, do
They
they?
don't get better. They just get worse over time. And I'm finding out different things that I've done in the service that I never run into the doc's office to get out of food for the day. And grand people. I had 17 people under me in the weapons division. But when I sat down and told them a story about, I just had an operation done in May 2015. It was an emergency. I had lifted up something heavier than I should have. And on Friday afternoon, working in my house, and damaged my back. My low spine, L3, 4, and 5. I could barely walk. Saturday night, I was in a fetal position in my bedroom, crying my eyes out. I never felt so much pain in my life. If I could have reached my 38, it was debatable. That's how much pain I had. There's no getting away from it. I tried every which way to move. I went to the hospital in Lincoln on Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, and his dad take me in. Nobody in the waiting room. I sat down, 11 o'clock. I said, go take mileage, get from church, go get breakfast, and I'm back in how these things go. 2 hours and 17 minutes. He comes back, sees me sitting, and says, you ready to go? I haven't been seen yet. Now I'm in excruciating pain. And I also found out, after trying to get dressed that day, that my left foot is gone. doesn't work. I come to find out it's called drop foot. I have so much neurological damage going on in my low spine. That's because I've had 2 prior surgeries. I develop a lot of calcification, hence my hospital sliders. Anywhere I've had surgery, it's like particles on a boat, just comes right back in and causes a lot of arthritis and a lot of pain. And I go in, I finally, Dad with his keys, whacking the wall and yelling, "Sons of bitches, I'll take this down to St. Joseph, EMC, somebody should be seeing this." They say, "Oh, I'm in a room." Lo and behold. And I can't get on the gurney, I'm just half there, and I got my foot out like this, I'm just in excruciating pain. The doctor comes in, and he looks over and he says, "Well, what's it?" I told him what was wrong. I said, "I'm in a lot of pain." I said, "My foot's dead, I can't move it." It's not so much that it hurt, that I have feeling, you touch it, or if I step on a glass and cut it, I have that, but I have no mobility. So I said, I gotta get out. He ended up looking at it and said, "Well, we don't want to rush into an MRI." Moved along. I ended up seeing a neurosurgeon. 2 days later, I take my father down to that EMC. He's seen me before. He saw my MRI. The first thing he says to his scheduler is, "Clear my table tomorrow morning. Get him in here at 6:30. He's first on the table." I was on the table 2.5 hours for my 3rd spine surgery. He did the best he could in cleaning up the stuff that came off my spine that I ripped off by lifting that boulder, and the nerves, and a chunk of L5 with it. But the doctor, when I went back on Monday, because the chiropractor didn't want to see me, wasn't going to touch it. He said, "I pour you to go back to the emergency room." I go back to the emergency room, same doctor comes around the corner. "Oh, Mr. Doyle, how you feeling?" I said, "I'm in a lot of pain, my foot's dead." 10 minutes later, never examined me, either time. If he saw, examined me the first time, he didn't see my scar from the surgery. Low back problem. I don't know how many people I've asked, and they all knew what foot drop was, drop foot. But he didn't seem to equate the two. So I ended up going to emergency surgery Wednesday morning. Dr. Melrose, on Tuesday, he knew of this. And he knows I have a bad spine and back anyway. General bone disease, passed on from my father, who think some of the medications he had to take in service. All 5 boys have the general bone disease. Kind of equates to the follow from him, on the medicine they gave him. So I ended up having surgery, and I ended up giving my Medicare card. Because they wouldn't, I didn't know about my choice. Because it came out in 2014 for what I told. Had I known, I could use my choice, and this was all an emergency thing, so that should have been taken into consideration. Nobody's told me. I've talked to a lot of veterans about my choice, and nobody knows of it whatsoever. That you have this. If you get hurt on a weekend, what do? You got no place to go other than, and now you get 70, I find out you get 72 hours to notify your physician. He knew. And long story on it, I got a $2,000 bill I've been paying off to the NFC. I'm down to $1,100. I'm on SDI myself. We only get so much money a month. I got no rating from the service for the problems I've had in the service, but John has helped me working on some of that. But there should be a red flag and communication between VA and other hospitals. They should all have something that somebody teach them that, yeah, this is a program that's out there now, that they will take it. And you're basically subsidizing and going to other hospitals when it's available. And there's 4 criteria, from what I understand, that you can meet to be able to use my choice. Well, I fell into 2 of them. Distance is 1, and neurosurgeon. And it was emergency. And my doctor knew well within the 72 hours. My question is, why wasn't I told that this could be, VA will take care of this? I didn't know. I just gave my Medicare, and I've been paying a bill ever since.
Who's involved with this?
For what his problem is. But who's the one in charge that should notify the hospitals?
It's up to the veteran, but a lot of times when you go into the hospital, they will have someone that will contact them that we have a veteran in the hospital. Sometimes they don't. Two of the doctors up there I know, Paul Turnquist, and another one, they do make sure that the veterans are reported because they are veterans themselves. But the choice program is not, it's difficult to understand. A lot of the vets have problems with it, and most of them don't understand that they even qualify for it or know what it is. And that's what we found out. Just like they wanted homeless veterans. I have a place above my office where I will put up a homeless veteran and you get them started. You don't give a hand out, you give a hand up because you're going to work and you're going to come back. But I was at a meeting recently when I was down in Augusta, and one of the ideas was that, well, when we have so many homeless veterans, why don't we have a campaign to get information out to them, and we'll do some advertisements, some announcements, and I couldn't help but thinking, if you have a homeless veteran, how many homeless veterans living under a tarp in the damn woods has a TV or a radio? Didn't understand that. And some of them, well, they don't read very good.
Well, the head nurse head nurse at Gretchen in Lincoln said when they built the clinic up in Lincoln, it was built because they had 400 vets that they knew of. I said, 400? You haven't seen nothing. They'll be coming out of the woodwork. They're up over 1,000 now.
And that's one thing about the Veterans Center. I'm retired. I'm just saying, well, I got a traumatic brain injury. It takes me a long time to do something, try to get organized. But I thought I would go in just a couple of days, help some vets out. Look at the population I've got and the problems. If it's that way in Lincoln area, what is it in the state of Maine? And my God, what is it in the United States of America? And that's bothersome. The only other thing that I would say is, Mr. Kern, he put in a letter of complaint about the way he had been given his forms and how they were outdated, and he expected him to do all this extra work. Well, he got a letter back from Mr. Lilly's office that said, you know, we take your complaint seriously. I do have a system set up, and you can go through it. Well, I have a complaint because I came up negative on the drug screen. They said that I was abusing narcotics or controlled drugs. So I have a complaint, and I think it's 8 or 9 exhibits with it, where it was submitted to Mr. Lilly, and I've never heard back, and it was submitted April 14th, 2017. Mr. Lilly never got back with me, and I have supported every claim I made with this, as far as the doctors lied, and they did. The test they used was not specific, and it was. That's wrong. Anyway, I want you to answer this. And I'm headed down to D.C. the end of the month to talk to the Veterans Affairs Committee. I'm looking forward to presenting how we're being ignored as veterans. Tom.
And I've been warned by the VA, a man that works there. Right, you got a desk of your records, don't let them have it. I said, he works at the VA. And he said, don't let them have that for desk, because they'll edit it. I said, what? They'll edit my disc and give it back to me. And guess what it ain't gonna have? Anything critical.
Make a copy of it.
We did. That's how we know that it would have been
okay.
altered.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything that I wanted to cover. The reason why I wanted to do this thing is because of the help that people's got to find out this information, and this is the best media to use so that a lot of us veterans never heard of. I saw a 10-second shot on a TV, and I went to Lincoln to find this guy. Now we've got a lot of people who are gonna watch this, and if you're a veteran out there and you need a hand, you get a hold of him through the company. What's the number you want them to call?
The Master Sergeant Gary Gordon Veteran Center,
Yeah, what's the phone number?
794,
I don't know.
you're fired.
I don't know. Well, that's a good number.
33582.
I've got a card in my pocket, I can give you one. But I think if everybody that's been awakened by this, like I was from a 10-second show, there is resources out there for us now, right there. It is 794-3852. That's the office number. 3852 in Lincoln. 794. Okay? Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed it.
One thing,
What's that?
this choice program, one thing I haven't heard. Choice program is not managed by VA.
It's free.
It's managed by a private concern,
Yes.
it's basically hired by Congress,
Yes.
and they're stationed out of California. I've had dealings with them twice. First time at the horror show, second time went quite well.
They decide themselves whether they scrutinize over the claim and what you're putting in for it. And they'll deem whether it's necessary that you get to see them, a doctor or not.
We really shouldn't complain, we can't sue this country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Quinn, how are you today?
One veteran who could not be with us today, Mr. Ron Carlo, he said in October 1978, I was discharged from active duty service. In November 78, I met with a veteran service officer and was told that I did not qualify for any benefits. I met with Mr. Nelson in March 2017. He got my medical benefits for me in a very short period of time. We also sent in for my records and they came back incomplete. When asking for records for a specific date, they replied that none could be found. It was a friendly fire incident. We are still in the process of trying to get them records. He had lost all hope, and he'd been trying since 1978. And I'm very proud that he couldn't be with us today, but I'm proud that he would at least say that, you know, he'd been left out of the system. And I want to thank everybody for being here. Really, I know it's something out of your day. And Tom's going to pay you.
I'm going to give you everything I make here. How's that?
In fact, the cameraman has a day off. But no, really, I really appreciate it. And I thank you. And if our people are going to call, I only one person, okay? And we can only try so much. So if I can answer a question, thank you. But otherwise, Tom, thank you for having us.
Well, I think it's been an eye-opener for all of us. I mean, because none of us have been together all in this group, so this is something that I've learned from the rest of you. And it's been a miracle for me, because I'm telling you, I've been fighting for 40 years, and this is the only way I hope I've had, so I'm really happy. That's why I wanted to show.
So here we are on the banks of Higgins Stream, and in this location we've had a woolen mill since 1821. So that's 196 years now, and it's been making or working with wool fiber. This was the stream that powered the mill originally, and right now it's run fully by electricity. The original mill building burned down in 1920, and in 1920 to 1921 they built the building that you see behind me. It is, for its day, it was state-of-the-art. We were working with some of the newest textile machinery during the 1920s, and we still are using a lot of those same machines because it makes a really good yarn, and there's no reason to change, just to be faster and have a higher speed output. But the building for 1921 was metal-clad siding and a metal standing seam metal roof, making it fire resistant. We had a lot of windows and a lot of it allowed a lot of light to come into the building. We also have electricity giving power anytime that they wanted. They didn't have to wait for the stream to be at a particular flow level before they could run the machinery. It also had, for its day, telephone as well as flush toilets, which 1920s was state of the art. We bring in raw wool right from local farmers. This is an example of some, well, what's in the trailer just came up from a farm down in Wyndham. You know, and here's an example of wool that has had nothing done to it yet. That's straight off the lamb, and we're going to package it up into these wool bags, which are about 300 pounds a piece. And these will be shipped down to a mill down in South Carolina to actually be washed. We don't wash the fiber here at Bartlett Yarns. We're a little too close to the stream, and we don't do the volume that would be necessary to make it efficient. So we'll ship it down, it'll just be washed and then shipped right back to us as a clean fiber, and it's ready to be gone into the next stage of the process. It's kind of interesting that we've got this would be enough for a tractor trailer load that will be going out of here tomorrow. And Maine is a net importer, so we're able to get southbound freight really inexpensively, usually about 10 or 11 cents a pound for a southbound. Coming back, it's the exact opposite. It costs us 3 times as much money, only because nobody wants to come all the way back up to Maine and then have to head back without a load. So that's the clean fiber in the natural state. We dye first and then spin, so our colors come. We use a dye house down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and they take the raw fiber that's been washed and dye it into a green, red, blue, whatever colors we're making, and that comes back here again in baled form with nothing having been done to it except for the fact that it's been colored. So we're going to go across the street and we'll see the first part of the operation. So the first 2 machines in the operation of actually manufacturing a woolen yarn are our duster and our picker. What we're doing here is we're blending the fibers together. We're also starting to get them loosened up and ready for the card up on the 3rd floor. We're not doing anything as far as straightening the fibers out. We're kind of loosening and untangling and blending it together. This is also where if we were making a colored yarn, we would blend the various amounts of blue and red with white to make a finished yarn. That's our picker, that's our duster, and the second machine here is a picker, and it does pretty much the same thing. We're opening the fibers up. This one we're going to actually, on the far end of it, there's a large fan, and we'll actually suck the fiber into the fan and blow it with air power all the way to the 3rd floor. So, welcome to the 3rd floor of Bartlett Yarns, and this is where the magic really starts to happen. We've got 3 machines up here, one of which is the oldest at Bartlett Yarns. Our small car down to the far end was manufactured in 1881. And our newest piece of machinery here is this piece of machinery behind me. It's called a spinning mule. And it was manufactured brand new in 1948. It has 240 spindles, and all 240 spindles will travel back and forth on this carriage, and that's putting the spin in that first ply of yarn. We're able to do that because over here is our woolen card, and it is about 80 feet long, and what we're doing is taking those raw fibers and straightening them out, and we're making a pencil roll. So we're spinning a pencil roving as that first ply of yarn. This is just an example of what a piece of pencil roving would look like. Now this would be on a spool that would be continuous in length, but right now it has absolutely no strength to it at all. It just falls right apart. And what we're going to do is, with the mule, we're going to put twist into that piece of pencil roving. And by twisting it, now we have a 1-ply yarn that has strength. spinner, and this is where we're actually doing the flying. You'll see the spool is still down the far end. We paired up 2 threads all the way down, and this is spinning 40 bobbins of applied yarn. Adjusting and picking was very much man's work, if you will. It was heavier, dustier, dirty. A lot of lugging things around. Up on the 3rd floor with the spinning and carting, that was also very mechanical, a lot of adjustments need to be made, and getting greasy all the time. So that was definitely men's work. Here on the 2nd floor, there's a lot of knot tying, a lot of meticulous attention to detail, not real strenuous hard work. And so machines are really designed to be very simple and easy to operate, and that's why generally tend to be more of women's work in the older buildings. And we have people of different genders that operate all of them, so it's not that way anymore. An interesting note is a lot of the machines are up on blocks of 4 and 6 inches, and that's because they were designed for a woman in the 1920s. And, you know, they were much shorter than, you know, we'll get school kids in and they'll say, why are they up on blocks? And then nobody seems to know. And I said, well, I guarantee you're taller than your grandmother. So. This yarn here is actually a custom processing yarn that we're making where a farmer has sent their very own fiber and they want their very own yarn back from their sheep. In this instance, what we're doing is putting it onto a skein winder where we're going to take 40 of those bobbins. We're going to clip them on here at the beginning, and because we know the distance around the circumference, the outside of that cylinder, we just need to know how many turns to get to the yardage that she wants on each skein. In this case here, it's going to be 210 yards on each one of these full 4-ounce skeins. So when she gets finished clipping this on, we'll start to see this go round and round. Once the skein has the proper amount of yardage, we'll tie it off at the end, flip it around to the beginning, unclip it and tie that off, and then pull all of those skeins off the reel so that we end up, once we've twisted it together, this would be a 5-pound bag which has 20 skeins in it, and it's ready for that customer, in this case a farmer down towards Newcastle. And what I'd like to do is make sure we invite everybody to Bartlett Yarns for our open house, which is this August 4th and 5th, from 9 until 4 in the afternoon. There will be a tour every hour on the hour, and if it gets really busy, we'll start and have a second tour on the half an hour as well. But it's a nice walking tour to see the entire operation. All the machinery will be up and running, and we hope you come and see us.